The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
In the past few years, we've heard the term free agents and been told we would all need to become one in order to succeed. The recent economic structures have helped to promote this concept as reality. Where do we get the tools to take control of our career path in the present and future? Welcome to The Career Confidant with your host, Marie Zimenoff. Marie and her guest experts are here to provide you with the tools you need to move forward and achieve your career goals. Now, here is Marie Zimenoff.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Career Confidant. This is your host, Marie Zimenoff, and we are so glad that you've joined us here another day at The Career Confidant. And if you've been listening into this show, you know that we're here to help you get the skills and tools that you need to move forward in your career independently of your company managing it for you, which we know is happening less and less today. So if you are listening in here to The Career Confidant, you've been listening in for a while, you know that you can always contact me at Marie, M-A-R-I-E, at astrategicadvantage.com with your questions. Happy to answer questions for you, connect you to resources, provide feedback around job search, career management, career advancement, resumes, and social media, which I know are becoming bigger and bigger topics in 2015. So we're going to talk about social media today. We're going to talk about some of the different ways that employers are looking at you on social media, maybe not what you think. So I'll give you some information here that will be helpful today in directing your social media strategy. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that fits in with Facebook in particular. So if you've been listening, you know that we've talked quite a bit about LinkedIn. It is the number one job search site for professionals, networking site for professionals. Give you some data on that again today. And we've also talked about Twitter, brought in Barbara Stefani to talk about Twitter and all of the different ways that you can use Twitter to manage your brand as well as your job search. So today we're going to talk a little bit in general about social media and how it fits into the process of job search or application tracking, if you will. And then we'll talk a little bit specifically about Facebook and how it's being used in job search in ways that you might not know that you could be using Facebook, especially if you're on Facebook, and ways that Facebook is being used that you're missing out on, maybe if you're not on Facebook, so that you can make that decision with all of the information that I can provide for you here today. So the place that all of this information comes from is one of my favorite recruiting sites that just gathers data like none other. They do a great job of gathering data. And that is JobVite. So JobVite, JobVite. They do all of these great studies to look at how recruiters are using social media for recruiting. And they're starting to get a little bit more in detail with the research that they do so that you can figure out how to use these mediums, right, and how recruiters are using these mediums. And I know that a lot of times people will say, you know, you don't have time, you don't want your private information out there, and all of those are factors in deciding which mediums you want to use. But the other factors that go into that is, what's the ROI, right? If we have limited time, where do we want to spend our time? If we have privacy concerns, where might we want to put some information anyways because it has good value for us? And so as you're looking forward, and we've been talking about branding, we've been talking about some of the trends in 2015, and we know that things are going more and more mobile, right? Companies are creating mobile apps to do recruiting. They're also using the existing mobile apps, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and many others, which I will kind of run by you here in a little bit. Those already have mobile apps, right? And so employers are figuring out ways to use those existing technologies to recruit because they know that all of this is moving more mobile. So you're going to see some of the trends pointing in that direction. You're going to see more recruiting being mobile friendly. And next week, I'm super excited. We're going to have Louise Kurzmark come in and talk about resumes. And when Louise and I are chatting about resumes next week and where they're going, we're also going to talk about this mobile piece and how she feels the mobile game is going to change your resume. It's not going to make it go away by any means. That's still an important part of the process, which we'll be talking about here today at the beginning. But it is going to change. So as we're looking at our social networks here, when we talked about Twitter, we talked about this briefly, but it's been a while, so we're going to just run by the data here again for you. That 94% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to do recruiting. 94%. So when people tell me that they don't want to be on LinkedIn, again, there's a lot of reasons for making that decision. And we have to do it knowing that that's how 94% of recruiters are doing their recruiting. We'll get more into that here in a minute. 65% are using Facebook to do some kind of recruiting. 65%. So if you're thinking, the amount of people that are recruiting on Facebook, and honestly, I thought this until I took the classes with Barbara Stefani, who came on a few months ago, that, most of it's going on LinkedIn. There's very little going on Facebook. There's been all that litigation, right? And people aren't really using that. 65%. That's not just your techie companies, right? That's a big percentage of your companies that are using Facebook in some way to do their recruiting. And we're going to dive into that pretty deep here today. But before we move on, just to think about that 65% are using Facebook, 55% are using Twitter. So those are the big three. I've talked about those three in some fashion over the year, but we haven't really talked about Facebook, so that's what we're going to be hitting on today is Facebook and how to use that in your job search. If you're thinking about Twitter, you can go back and listen to the session that we did with Barbara Stefani in April. Seems like not that long ago, but it was April that Barbara was on, and we talked specifically about Twitter. But today we're going to focus on Facebook. But before we get there, and this is just fun because this came from my husband, who's an engineer. And so, of course, he's thinking that he wants to, I think, reverse engineer this hiring process, right? He's thinking, how do employers use social media throughout the job search process? And I was going, oh my gosh, that's such a complex thing. How would I ever tell you? Well, of course, JobVite has done the research for me and walking us through how employers use these mediums throughout the hiring process. So very interesting to think about that. I think it's 96% of employers, recruiters, are using LinkedIn to search for candidates. 96%. 96%. So does that mean that if you're not on LinkedIn, you're at a disadvantage? I'll just leave that to you. 94% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to contact candidates. So they're doing that research. Then they might actually be contacting candidates through LinkedIn. And this data is from 2013. So of course things are shifting. And it's still amazing. Now, if you are not an active job seeker, you know this, right? That 90% of recruiters are keeping tabs on you as a potential candidate for a job they might have come open, or, hey, this person's just a standout in an area that we typically hire. So 94% are using this system to track you. And part of you might be thinking that's not why you want to be on there, because you don't want to be tracked. But if some point in your lifetime you think you might change jobs, this is a powerful way for you to have already been in somebody's mind as a potential candidate. So then let's think about how is Facebook being used on that front end, right? That pre-interview phase. And so we've got that in LinkedIn, people are searching for candidates. They're keeping tabs on candidates. Over 90% are vetting candidates pre-interview on LinkedIn. So they're looking at candidates before they interview them on LinkedIn. And 91% of people are posting jobs on LinkedIn. So you've got a huge, over 90% of recruiters are using LinkedIn for all of those pre-interview activities. On Facebook, obviously it's a little bit lower, but you still have 48% of employers on Facebook are posting jobs. 48% of employers are posting jobs on Facebook, not 48% of those that are on Facebook are posting jobs there. Just to be clear, 48% of all the employers that JobVite sampled are posting their jobs on Facebook. This was amazing to me because of the litigation that's out there around Facebook and employers using it. But 35% are vetting candidates on Facebook, both before and after an interview. It's over 30% are vetting candidates on Facebook. So if you are thinking that you've got your security set and nobody's really looking at your Facebook, oh boy, you might think about that again, because if 30% of employers are doing that, there's systems set up to be able to look at your stuff. So thinking about what they're seeing is important. Then we get into Twitter, just looking at 43% of employers are posting jobs on Twitter. And there's less kind of vetting going on Twitter, but there is a lot of referral going on in both of those places. So over 50% of employers are looking for referrals on Facebook. So they are asking their employees to refer employees through Facebook, and 30% are doing that on Twitter. So you've got this social giant that is these big three, where employers are using that to post jobs, to look at candidates before and after the interview. And a lot of it is to get their current employees to refer others through these mediums. And so we're going to talk specifically today, the next 45 minutes here, we're going to dig into Facebook. And before you turn off the channel thinking, oh, I'm not on Facebook, I don't care, hear me out, listen in. There might be some things that you could use that might be beneficial even if you're not on Facebook. Might be some things that if you're on Facebook and you think, oh, it's only personal, might be interesting to check out some of these other options and research strategies and connection strategies that you're using on LinkedIn that you can access through Facebook. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes, and we're going to dig into how you can take advantage of the fact that more than 50% of employers are using Facebook in some way throughout this recruiting process. So we'll be back in just a few minutes and keep talking here about Facebook in your job search and professional branding.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation. The leaders of today have certain characteristics that set them apart as success stories. These leaders have discovered transformational leadership. Now, you can discover the same ideas, insights, and programs that have led them to success. Inside Transformational Leadership, hosted by Kate Ebner, is produced by Georgetown University's Institute for Transformational Leadership. We'll explore these success stories every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Business Channel.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
The business community's first choice in Internet Talk Radio. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to The Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to The Career Confidante.
Welcome back to the Career Confidante, and we've been talking today about social media in your job search and just thinking about the job search process and how are employers, recruiters using social media. We talked about this, and hopefully it's not too surprising, but just for you to know that more than 90% of employers are doing something on LinkedIn throughout that process. They're searching for you on LinkedIn, they're posting the job on LinkedIn. All of those activities, over 90% of employers are doing those things on LinkedIn. So as you're deciding what you build on LinkedIn, what you're doing on LinkedIn, knowing that that is happening. If you're applying for jobs, people are looking at you there, right? And people are finding you there whether you apply or not, which is the challenge for a lot of us. And that also those things are happening on Facebook, right? More than 30% of employers are looking at you as a candidate on Facebook, and more than almost 50% are posting jobs through Facebook. So that kind of blew me away. I like to think that Facebook is more personal, even for me, than professional, and this brings some new information to light that I think we all consider as we decide how we're going to job search. So whether you want to use Facebook for job search or not, there are some resources that you can go check out. You don't have to, nobody's going to know you've looked, it's okay. There are things that you can look at and decide how you might want to change your approach based on what you see. So companies have pages, obviously. Lots of bigger companies or companies who see Facebook as the way they want to recruit, which can be a various cross-section, right? If they've decided that Facebook is a good way for them to recruit, they're going to also have probably a careers page. So you'll find that Verizon, big companies that are consumer brands, right, are using Facebook to recruit. This is the new frontier of recruiting. They are building pages that attract the people that they want to attract. They're spending a lot of money on analytics, a lot of money on marketing to do this, to build a career page that speaks specifically to the type of people they want to hire. And a system that attracts those people. And it's very technical. It's kind of scary for those of you who aren't into big data, but it's happening. And so you can use that to your advantage. And a lot of it you can use to your advantage without ever being known. Some of it you can use to your advantage while being known, right? You can do some of these things. And for those of you who have separated Facebook into the more professional versus personal, this might actually be to your advantage, because one of the disadvantages on LinkedIn is that if you post something, all of your colleagues see it, right? Fun. On Facebook, if you've stayed more personal, only your personal connections may be able to see that you've written to somebody on Verizon's career page, right? And this is the beauty of Facebook, just like Barbara Stefani talked about with Twitter, is that there is less barrier between you and the people. Whereas on LinkedIn, there can be barriers. You're approaching a person directly, which can create some barriers. On Facebook, especially if you go to some of these pages, you can actually write to the page, and there's someone managing that who's trained on how to respond to you. Yes, they might be a quote-unquote gatekeeper, but it's really no different than LinkedIn. Those managers that you're connecting to may be just as likely to pass you on to that gatekeeper. And on Facebook, you're getting companies who have decided that this is a good way for them to recruit. So they're more likely to actually interact with you because they know that they started this, right? They started this by building a careers page. So if you go to a Verizon career page, or there's, after college pages for places like Macy's and Disney's has a careers page, you can actually write on their page, hey, I'm interested in this position. I would love to talk to the recruiter. And people will respond to you. It's amazing. Go look at the pages. Look at what people have posted. Look at the comments that have been posted back. And you'll see that this is actually creating dialogue, very unlike what I have seen clients get when they try to do it through LinkedIn. It's very different, it's more interactive, and it really gives you the opportunity of connecting with that employer, at least in some way, where you might not have gotten to do that, right? Now, if you're just getting started on Facebook, this might be a good way for you to see if it's worth it. Go and see if companies that you're interested in have Facebook pages. Do they have career pages? And you can do a little test for yourself. Is this going to be worth it for you? Because that's important. If none of the companies you're interested in are on there, it might not make a difference to do that and make that stretch and put all of the energy into building that page, because it will be obviously some work. If you decide that you're going to start, or if you're already on Facebook and you're thinking about using it differently, then obviously there are some things you want to look at. You want to go into your privacy settings on LinkedIn. It's a little lock symbol at the top of your page, right after home. There's a few little symbols, and then there's this little lock guy. And you can go into your privacy settings and change who can see your stuff, who can contact you, and who can look at you, who can look you up. When you're first getting started, you can set those things very stringently and see where it goes for you. But it's that idea of you have control somewhat over your privacy, right? I think we're fooling ourselves if we ever think we have control over our privacy, whether we're on Facebook or not. If you use a phone or do anything, buy anything online, your privacy is what it is, right? Is worrying about that going to get in the way of taking advantage of this technology? And that you can decide by doing some research and seeing what you think about your industry's involvement on such a thing as Facebook. Then, of course, you want to write your about. And even more than LinkedIn, we talk about your LinkedIn profile being social. It is professional, but it's very social. On LinkedIn or on Facebook, it's very social. And you will want to decide what personal things you're going to share so that your page isn't all professional. People who tend to post only professional things on LinkedIn find themselves getting lower and lower numbers in their engagement, getting people to actually see their posts, and that may or may not matter to you depending on how you're going to use Facebook. Then you want to do some work in terms of doing the research, figuring out if there's companies that you want to follow, to like, if you will, and how you want to interact with them. Because obviously you can interact with them by posting on their page. You can see if they've got groups that you can join, just like LinkedIn. There's groups on Facebook that allow you to interact with people that might be in the company, that might be in the industry, that might be in the same kind of work that you do. All of those are great ways for you to connect with the company in a lot of different ways. And the groups work very similarly to LinkedIn. And then you can also do hashtag searches similar to what we've talked about with Twitter. But if you just want to start by looking at your privacy or setting up an account and putting it in the privacy as strict as you want, and poking around and seeing what companies are on there, how they're posting, how they're responding to posts on their page, all of those things will give you a great insight into their company culture, the type of worker that they're trying to hire. It really is a great place to do research, if nothing else. So one of the other things that you can do on a company page is look for specific job postings. And what are they posting? It might look a little bit differently than you're used to seeing on a job search site, right? And might be more like LinkedIn, where some of those posts are on the page, some of them are actual jobs that you can find, and then some of them might be posted in some different places, which we'll come back to when we get back after our break. But we're going to talk briefly about Career Sonar and Be Known. And Be Known, interesting, is a partnership between Facebook and Monster. So Monster is trying to get into the social media job search game here. But it gives you an opportunity to try out a different way of searching, a different way of posting a profile, just like you would on a job board, now within the confines of this social medium. So may or may not be interesting. I would say that my first tasks on Facebook would be more around looking into the career pages and what's going on those company pages or company career pages. And then we might get a little bit deeper and figure out how we want to use some of that information. But I'm going to go through some of these resources with you so that you have them and can try them out, let's say, can go and do some experimentation. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes here and dive a little deeper into Career Sonar and Be Known and how those two things can help you with finding posted jobs on Facebook. We'll be right back here in just a few minutes.
The business community's first choice in Internet Talk Radio. Voice America Business Network.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation. Where is the best place to put your money? Rick Saylor with co-host Eric Hamburg will take the mystery out of investing in order to keep your hard-earned wealth performing and protecting to its maximum potential. Listen for Straight Talk, Clear Decisions, live every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Business Channel.
Rick Saylor, smooth financial sailing for the best part of your life.
Now you don't have to stay linked to your desktop or laptop. Take Voice America on the go and listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network. You are tuned in to The Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to The Career Confidante.
Welcome back to The Career Confidante, and today we are talking about Facebook and using Facebook for job search. And, I think it's important that as you try out these new mediums, that as you get into it, as we've talked about, you're really thinking about what's the value. Are my employers here that I want to work with? Are they interacting with people like me on their pages? If you don't find that to be true, it might not be worth it for you, and that's okay. And if your employers are there, again, this might be a lower barrier way to connect with them than LinkedIn. It might be a better way to connect with them if they are more of a consumer brand than LinkedIn. So knowing your audience and knowing what types of work you want to apply for, and also, of course, your personal preferences are all important when making these decisions. But I think it's important that we give some good thought to the fact that we know so many recruiters are using this type of medium, and that the amount of recruiters using this type of medium is going to increase, right? And so when we're looking at Facebook, there are some apps that I don't know that they're going to stick, but they're there, and if your companies are there, it might be a good thing to check out. Some of the apps within Facebook, obviously we talked briefly about the Be Known from Monster. So Be Known, BEKNOWN. Now, this system is kind of Monster embedded into Facebook. So you're searching jobs, but you can also, through their system, see kind of like on LinkedIn, who is posting these jobs? Do you have connections? Who can you talk to? It gives you some of that ability to connect with people through Facebook, just like you would do through LinkedIn. So it helps you find and research people within the companies that are posting the jobs that you might be interested in. So getting into Be Known, you sign up, it tells you it doesn't post for you on Facebook, so that it's not posting on your public or to your friends that you're doing this. And then you have to click know a lot because it'll say, do you want to post this to your Facebook page? Just, no, I thought we just had that conversation. That's okay. So getting through there, setting some of those things up, you can import over your profile from Facebook, or you can put in a new one. You put in some stuff from LinkedIn. Don't rewrite the book there. And then you can start searching for jobs. You can set your profile visibility just like you can in LinkedIn or in Facebook. And it gives you that opportunity to search for jobs in a different way, to be able to connect with hiring managers in a different way, and find out who you might know at companies through Facebook instead of through LinkedIn. Obviously going to be better if you've used Facebook for a while and you have more connections, and might be a great place to do some poking around if you're finding that LinkedIn's not working for you, you're not getting responses from people there, or whatever it is that those barriers are that are coming up for you. Or if you're in the consumer products types of industries, or your companies are prominent on Facebook, very active, this may be a good place to start building if you are thinking about making a move, right? There's no better time than before you need to make a move to start doing some of these things, because we know they take time. There are a few other apps within Facebook that you might check out, being Glassdoor. So Glassdoor has integrated some of its pieces with Facebook, and if you haven't gone to look at Glassdoor for other reasons, it is separate. You can look at it at glassdoor.com, and provides great insight into companies. Obviously, you have to know that the people who complain there are complaining there in a public venue for a reason, and sometimes that's going to be a red flag, and sometimes it's just what it is. But that has integrated into Facebook to allow you to do some research and interaction between the two. And Career Sonar, which is another platform that allows you to discover career opportunities by connecting those two networks. So all of this is going on in the corporate world. The corporate world is very heavily invested in connecting these two worlds for their usage, right? To help them mine referrals, all of those things. So these technologies are for you, the job seeker, the professional, to take advantage of those technologies for yourself. Again, thinking about the return that's there for your time and effort in using these, and also the opportunity cost that's there if you are not using these things, because there is opportunities that you're missing if you're not using them. And that might be okay, might be something to check out. So all of these, again, are because recruiting is moving to be more mobile, because recruiters want to be able to find you using their mobile apps while they're on the train or waiting for a meeting or whatever those things might be. And because they have found that job seekers are increasingly doing the same thing. When I look on LinkedIn for these opportunities, or connect with this person, connect with that person right here from my phone. And these technologies allow me to do that more so than just email. That's why these technologies are growing and are continuing to grow in 2015. And in any way that you can find how to tap into that market if you are looking for a job. And again, it's all networking, right? It is all based on the same philosophies of networking that we've been talking about in this show the whole time. That you're climbing the stairs, not going up an elevator. It's not going to happen quick, although it'd be great when it does, and it does. But it's all about building those relationships, building a community for yourself, joining the community, having a voice in that community, making connections, real connections, to be able to mine opportunities. That's what this is all about. The technology are just tools to help you do that. And using them as such is a part of the challenge. Nothing's going to happen by magic, right? It's all about the work that you put into it and where you want to spend your time so that you can do some work to make these things work. So if you're getting into Facebook, as I said, the first thing I would start with is the company pages. You can like them. You can write to them directly if that is something that makes sense. Look at the posts people are posting to their wall, see how people are responding, figure out what you might want to do if you want to approach them directly by writing on their wall. Like their posts, right? They might have virtual events that you can go to. Maybe they even have virtual events that talk about their company. Right? There's a lot of things going on that you can do to help that. You can share. So if they're posting that their CEO just won this award, share that with your friends, right? Say, this is one of the companies that I'm interested in. Look at how great they're doing. Or if you're not openly job seeking, you might post there and say, this is one of the brands that I'm excited about right now. Look what they're doing. Right? It doesn't have to necessarily highlight the fact that you're job seeking, just in some of the ways we've been talking about the stealth search on LinkedIn. It gives you an opportunity to interact with them. It gives you an opportunity to see what other people are saying about them, real-time, live, awesome stuff. If you're especially in any of those positions where that's critical, customer service management, product development, if you're in any of those positions, Facebook is providing you awesome market intelligence that you could use in an interview. It looks like customers are having a problem with this, or it looks like your customers are really looking for this. Wouldn't that be an awesome collaborative conversation to have with a hiring manager in an interview based on your Facebook interaction with them? And honestly, that's part of why they're using Facebook to do their recruiting, is because it helps them find people who are already in their community and part of their culture before they even hire them. It's brilliant. It really is. And it can be a great way for you to connect with them too if you use it to your advantage. So Facebook also provides you the opportunity to look at job function pages. So you could search marketing jobs, mechanical engineering jobs, and you'll come up with these pages where people are posting jobs and people are talking about those types of jobs. It's very cool. The mechanical engineering jobs Facebook page has over 18,000 likes. And so what a great way to connect with other people in your profession for multiple different reasons, right? Especially if you are in any kind of hiring, be a great resource to look at. And then, of course, you've got the groups we talked about. You can join groups that might be professional association groups. They might be even company groups or colleague groups. That's a big part of the job search here on Facebook, just like it is in LinkedIn, to be able to join those groups, interact with people on the groups, and connect. So those would be the pieces of Facebook that I would try first. Do your research on the company pages. See what's going on there. Check out the groups. Are there professional groups? Are there industry groups that you can join? And then maybe there are some of those third-party applications that you're interested in. So we're going to come back here in just a few minutes to kind of wrap this up all together, give you an overview here of how this all relates to your search and where we're going next week, which is going to be really exciting in terms of the resume. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
The business community's first choice in Internet Talk Radio. Voice America Business Network.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Conversations concerning money can be a bit daunting. There can be limitations with building wealth, and in general, people don't want to discuss their money until now. Listen each week for Conversations with Money, featuring Franco Caligiuri and Marissa Sipolinski. Our guests make money the conversation piece, how to build and maintain wealth, working with charities, and money and family members. Listen every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Business Channel.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to The Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to The Career Confidant.
Welcome back to The Career Confidant, and today we've been talking about social media in your job search and professional development, as well as Facebook specifically. So at the beginning of the show, we talked a little bit about the data that companies are using LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook to recruit. They're using them throughout the recruiting process, whether that's to try to find you as a candidate, to attract you as a candidate, to actually post jobs. And yes, 30 to 50% of companies are posting jobs on Twitter and Facebook to look at you before or after they interview. And even 30% of companies are doing that on Facebook, looking at you before or after they interview you. And so all of those mediums provide opportunity. And of course, we have to be careful about overextending ourselves and doing things that take a lot of our time. And so we've got to be smart. Got to take on pieces that make sense for us, and we've got to take on pieces that work in a strategic way in our market. And so as you're looking at these mediums for yourself, and we talked about this in April when we talked about Twitter with Barbara, but we're thinking about our companies there. How are they interacting with people? Are they responding when people ask about a job posting and want to talk to a recruiter? And just like on LinkedIn and Twitter, you can do those things on Facebook, right? You can look and see what your company is doing on Facebook or the companies you're interested in. Are they responding to people? Are they doing some of these things that make it apparent it might be worth your time to use that medium for your job search or for your professional networking? And that also runs, again, across all of these mediums, is that they are networking. They are just tools for networking. If all you're doing is look at job posting and applying, you could be doing that from any job board. These tools are meant to take it deeper. They're meant to help you connect with people and build relationships. And there are tools for you to use in doing that. Now, Facebook itself presents some challenges for most people because it's a mix of that personal and professional. That's exactly why companies are using it. The lines between those two are becoming so much more blurred, and companies want them to be more blurred right now. I don't know that that'll last forever, but that is the way the trend is continuing for now. That how are you in your personal life is important to them. That your personal relationships are important to them, right? That's why referrals are so important. Because people hire people, right? And so those professional and personal lines are blurred the most probably on Facebook. And that's why it does still have the lowest number of employers using it, but 48% is nothing to discount. So there's all of these opportunities if we can find a way individually as for you to make it work for you, to make it comfortable, to figure out what personal information you want to share, to set up Facebook in the privacy so that you know when you're posting, is it going to friends or is it going to acquaintances? Facebook has set up some of those things for you to be able to segment it, but you have to use it. And getting out there and setting up an account or just doing some research to see what companies are on there is the first step. All of those pieces that we've talked about, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, work best, obviously, when you're clear on where you're going. And so a few weeks ago, we talked about branding and that importance of branding. And all of these social mediums are really a way to communicate your brand. If you've got that clear, concise idea of what you want to do, you can even decide what parts of your personal life you're going to share that support that brand that you want to describe out in the public. And so I share with you sometimes that part of my brand is my athletic involvement, if you will, whether that's watching sports, playing sports. That's a big part of my personal life, but it also feeds a lot into my professional life, just in terms of how I structure things and the types of individuals that I like to work with, the types of analogies that I use. All of those things come together. And so what is it for you that is a big part of your personal life that plays into your professional life? Whether it's, you play tennis and you use some of those principles when you're developing products and batting the ball, if you will, back and forth between engineering and marketing and sales, and making sure that it works out to everybody's benefit. There are things of your personal life that you might want to share to everybody on Facebook, even if you are figuring out how to separate them a little bit there. And doing a little bit of both is probably the best way to get that done. So if you are looking at social media and you're thinking, okay, so then why the heck do I need a resume? Right? If I've got to have a LinkedIn profile and I've got to have a Facebook profile, and I'm going to be doing the Twitter where I've got the 160 character bio. Those are all things that it just allows you to communicate your brand. And we've talked about how employers are using the social mediums in hiring. But you'll notice that all of those are screening tools. But just as we as buyers, typically you look 9 places before we buy something. Isn't that amazing? We use 9 different sources on average before we buy something. So are employers using multiple tools, multiple sources to vet you as a candidate before they hire you. And Louise Kurzmark's going to be coming next week to talk about the resume and its place in that vetting toolbox, because it does still have a place in that toolbox that recruiters are looking at all of the different pieces of information about you as the candidate before they bring you in. Now, one of the great things I love about social media and all the different social mediums we've been talking about today is that they give you ownership of your brand. They allow you the opportunity to build a community, build a brand, connect with your colleagues, all separate from your company. And that gives you power. That gives you stability in the way I define career stability. Because you now have this group of people and this visibility that you can use to take you to your next career step. That's the power of these pieces of branding communication, of these methods, these mediums. And the more that you can do these things well, the more career stability you'll have. Whether it's that you're just focused on LinkedIn, or you're doing Facebook and LinkedIn, or you're doing LinkedIn and Twitter, or maybe you have figured out how to do all three. That is the key for the future. The mediums might change, but if you've used them and leveraged them, you'll adapt and you'll keep that stability to move yourself forward in your career. And of course, if you ever need my help in doing these things and moving your career forward, that's why I'm here. You can always reach out to me at Marie, M-A-R-I-E, at astrategicadvantage.com. And we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. It's a don't miss show with Louise Kurzmark coming to join us to talk about the future of the resume. We'll see you right back here next week on the Career Confidant.
Thank you for listening to The Career Confidant. Marie Zimenoff will return again with another terrific guest next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. Be sure to join us then.